Warning, this video contains Code Geass spoilers. All the spoilers. All of them. What is up everybody, it's Animac here for Anime Uproar and welcome to a brand new Code Geass video. In this video we will be counting down the top 5 hidden messages in the original Code Geass series, and we will be looking at whether these messages give us some clues for what might happen in Season 3. A big thank you for all the people on our Discord server for helping us out with this video. We will be shouting some of them out during the video, but if you'd like to be a part of our Discord server and if you'd like to be part of future discussions and theories about Code Geass and other anime, you can check out our Discord server. The link is in the description. Here at Anime Uproar, we want to be your #1 source for all the latest news and theories for Code Geass Season 3, but also Attack on Titan Season 2, 7 Deadly Sins Season 2, and so on. So if you want to stay up to date and be the first to know, be sure to subscribe and be sure to click that notification bell so that you get all the news first. And without further ado, number 5. A quote from Dante's Inferno. If you go back to episode 21 of R2, at exactly 11 minutes and 48 seconds, right before we enter the Sword of Akasha through the thought elevator on Kamine Island, we see the following message flash on screen. The message reads, "Lasciate ogni speranza voi centrate," and it is a quote in Latin by the poet Dante Alighieri. In English, this quote means, "Abandon all hope, you who enter here." And it is actually from Dante's Divine Comedy, the first part, Dante's Inferno, Canto 3, line 9. So why does this quote from Dante's Inferno appear at this specific time? If you look at Dante's Divine Comedy, it is made up of 3 parts, and the first part, the one in which this quote appears, is hell. In Dante's Inferno, this line actually appears on the entrance to hell. So it is very interesting that the creators of Code Geass chose to show us this line as we enter the world of sea. I personally think that there is a double meaning behind showing us this quote. First, from Lelouch's perspective, we know that he thinks that Charles's plan to blend all of humanity into a single consciousness would be a terrible idea. It would stop progress, it would lead to stagnation, and in many ways, for Lelouch, Charles's plan would be a form of hell. On the other hand, from Charles's perspective, the idea of abandoning hope could simply mean that once there is no more individuality and all of humanity is blended into a single consciousness, we will no longer have any need of fear or hope or any of those emotions because we will always be peaceful and secure as a single collective being. At any rate, I think that the creator's decision to show us this particular line at this particular time is very interesting. And if you have any interpretations of why you think they did that, I'd love to hear them in the comments. And by the way, did you miss this message the first time you saw Code Geass, or did you spot it right away? Let me know down below. Number 4. Australia. What is the deal with Australia in the world of Code Geass? Did you ever notice that every time we see a world map in Code Geass, Australia is always left blank, left in gray, so it is always portrayed as independent of any other nation or alliance in the world of Code Geass. Now, if Australia wasn't important and there was no real reason to leave it separate, then the creators could have easily made it a part of the Britannian Empire or any other alliance. So why didn't they do that? The fact that they seem to have gone out of their way to make Australia separate and different tells me that Australia could be important and could play some role in the sequel. We know that Code Geass takes place in an alternative timeline, so an alternate history. So we could assume that perhaps Britannia never colonized Australia in this world. But as the Code Geass wiki points out, Australia was first discovered by the Dutch in 1606, and the Netherlands were a separate nation from Britannia at that time. So we know that Australia would have been discovered in the world of Code Geass. And it is of course mapped, it is shown on the maps, so everyone must know that it is there. In the episode Cheering Mao, Mao implies that Australia is indeed populated when he tells C2 that he is going to abduct her and escape to Australia with her. While it is possible that in the world of Code Geass, Australia was simply never colonized and that its only inhabitants are the native people of Australia, it is highly unlikely that Britannia and other powerful empires throughout history would never attempt to take over such a vast area of land and such vast natural resources as are found on the continent of Australia, unless there was something there, something powerful stopping them from taking over Australia. So, what is the secret of Australia? Are there clues about the origins of Code and Geass hidden there? Do the people of Australia possess some sort of advanced technology or perhaps Geass-related powers that allow them to stop any other country, any other empire from colonizing them? Like I mentioned earlier, the fact that the creators of Code Geass seem to have gone out of their way to separate Australia from the rest of the Code Geass world might mean that they have something interesting planned for Australia in the sequel. In fact, I think that I discovered something never seen before. Check this out. If you zoom in on Australia in the world of Code Geass, more, zoom in more. If you zoom in further, you will see, you will see the anime man Code Geass Australia conspiracy. Illuminati confirmed. Number 3. The ancient civilization. In this frame that flashes by quickly in the scene where Lelouch first makes a contract with C2, we appear to see members of an ancient civilization. You can see that they have the code sign on their foreheads and their clothing looks ancient. Their clothing is completely different from clothing in the modern world of Code Geass, and it is also different from the clothing used by the modern Geass order. In the world of Code Geass, it is established that the 8 thought elevators that Charles uses to activate the Ragnarok connection were actually created by members of a mysterious ancient civilization that was clearly highly advanced and powerful. In the new PV, which recently came out for Season 3, we also appear to see shots of 2 ancient temples, which could be a clue that the ancient origins of Code and Geass and the civilization that created the 8 thought elevators might play an important part in the plot of Season 3. I will leave it here for now, but if you want to know more about this whole ancient civilization theory, check out our top 10 shocking theories about Code Geass Season 3. The link is in the description. Number 2. The meaning of Geass or Geass in Celtic mythology. In Irish mythology, Geass refers to a specific obligation or prohibition that is similar to being under a vow or a spell. If we just look at the Wikipedia page, we see that a Geass can be compared with a curse or, paradoxically, a gift. If someone under a Geass violates the associated taboo, the infractor will suffer dishonor or even death. On the other hand, the observing of one's Geassa, or Geass plural, is believed to bring power. Often it is women who place Geassa upon men. In some cases, the woman turns out to be a goddess or other sovereignty figure. The Geass is often a key device in hero tales, such as those in Irish mythology. Traditionally, the doom of heroes comes about due to their violation of their Geass, either by accident or by having multiple Geassa placed on them at the same time and having no option but to violate one Geass in order to maintain another. So in Celtic mythology, a Geass is a type of contract often offered to a man by a woman, and this woman might turn out to be a goddess or another type of magical creature, such as an immortal witch perhaps. Furthermore, the Geass contract can be a curse if disobeyed, as was the case with Mao, who couldn't bring himself to kill C2 and fulfill their contract, and then after she abandoned him he went insane. But it could also be a gift and lead to great power if it is followed through, if the contract is followed through until the end. This of course has great meaning in the world of Code Geass. If we assume that Lelouch's contract was to fulfill C2's original wish to die, we know that he fails to fulfill that contract, and the end result might be his death. And we know that many believed that at the end of R2, Lelouch was in fact dead. But if we assume that C2's original wish changes during the course of the anime, and if we believe that her new wish is to live happily and together with Lelouch, then the only way that Lelouch can fulfill his contract is to actually go on living. And if you're still wondering how Lelouch could have survived his encounter with Suzaku's sword at the end of R2, feel free to check out my top 3 reasons Lelouch is still alive. The link is in the description. And the number 1 hidden message in Code Geass: the Tree of Life and the Ragnarok. If we look at these scenes from Code Geass, we see the repeated use of imagery that resembles a tree. In this image in particular, we clearly see C2 and V2 beside what look like the roots of a tree. This imagery is reminiscent of the Sephiroth tree or the Tree of Life, an important mystical symbol used in the Kabbalah of esoteric Judaism. This tree represents a map of creation, and it tells us about the nature of divinity, the nature of the human soul, and the spiritual path of ascent by man, the path of the spirit ascending to heaven and to God. In the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, you can see the Sephiroth tree used even more blatantly as symbolism. And we know that Evangelion influenced Code Geass because the human instrumentality project in Evangelion is almost the same as Charles's ultimate goal in Code Geass. So what is this symbolism trying to tell us? Remember that the Tree of Life symbolizes the spiritual ascent of man towards God. I have to thank Vector Maximus for pointing out all of this Tree of Life symbolism in Code Geass. And after seeing this particular comment in one of our videos, I remembered something. I remembered that in the scene, in the very first episode where Lelouch first makes his contract with C2, we briefly see Charles inside the Sword of Akasha. And what does Charles say? He says, "We will join with the Ragnarok. The legend begins again." And this is around the 21-minute and 10-second mark in the very first episode of Code Geass. But who are the Ragnarok, and how will Charles join them? What if the Ragnarok is the name of the ancient civilization that created the 8 thought elevators in the first place? What if these Ragnaros are no longer around because they already activated the Ragnarok connection once before and they used it to ascend towards God? They moved beyond the physical form and became the collective consciousness that we know as God in the world of Code Geass. We know that this ancient civilization created the thought elevators. We know that they created the Sword of Akasha. But it looks like they also might have created the concept of God itself in the world of Code Geass by ascending, moving beyond physical form into a purely spiritual, pure consciousness form, which we now recognize as God in the world of Code Geass. What if what Charles is trying to do is activate a second Ragnarok connection in order for modern humanity to join with the ancient Ragnares and become together a more robust, a bigger, better collective consciousness? After all, Charles would have to have known somehow, he would have had to find out somehow about the Ragnarok connection. And what if he found ancient texts that actually suggested that a Ragnarok connection was already activated in the past by this ancient civilization, and he was simply trying to recreate that, create a new world order, which is why he says the legend begins again. What if when Charles says that he wants to kill God, what he really wants is to destroy the barrier between these ancient Ragnaros, who are the collective consciousness, and modern man. And he wants to allow modern man to join up with the Ragnaros and create a completely new God, a new type of collective consciousness. What Charles seems to want to do is to destroy the current order, which condemns modern humans to live in the physical world, where he feels there are too many lies, too much deceit, and too much suffering. And in this he reminds me of Shin Hyuga Shang from Akito the Exiled, who believes that life itself is a curse and he wants to kill those he cares about in order to save them from this curse. Charles believes that humanity would be much happier if they joined the Ragnaros and became purely spiritual beings. The legend would then begin again as a second Ragnarok connection allows modern humans to ascend to a spiritual form just like the ancient civilization already did countless years ago. If this theory is true, it would explain why a mysterious being with code appears in Akito the Exiled and explains that she is a representation of pure consciousness, a purely spiritual being. She could in fact be a representation of the Ragnaros, who activated the first Ragnarok connection and ascended from physical to purely spiritual form. Now, wouldn't this theory explain a lot about the origins of the thought elevators, about why they were created in the first place, and about what happened to the ancient civilization that created them, which no longer seems to be around physically, but could very well still be around in spiritual form. The biggest credit for help on this video goes to Vector Maximus, but I also want to thank Leith, Vladimir Sickle, Solmaka, and Lelouch Kingsley from our Discord server. And those are our top 10 hidden messages in Code Geass. Did you find any hidden messages that we didn't talk about? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button for more videos like this one and for all the latest news and updates on Code Geass Season 3. If you want to chat with us on a daily basis and help come up with ideas for new videos, be sure to join our Discord server, the link is in the description. Thanks so much for watching everybody, thanks for all the support, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.